It is Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 Training Camp React, day number 10. We would love it if you want to comment, man. We'll take your responses. And this was the big one. Joining me is our beat reporter, Josh Griesemer, the man on the scene, and Coach Mike Sanford for Saturday night. I did see Marc Moser today, boys, and I did invite Moj to be on. I should read what he texted me back, because I couldn't believe I actually saw him there. Moser's comment was, at 6:29 tonight, you weren't serious, were you? And then he showed me of him like having a drink, like watching a band. You know, this was where Marc Moser was, watching some sort of band. I don't know, but I don't know. It's good to see Moj there.
Yeah,
it's good to see everybody there.
It's a good use of his Saturday night right there.
Well, yeah. He goes, well, you want me on if I'm hammered? And I go, well, I should show you my pregame about what, I'm doing right before the show. But got the Olympics on. I got a cold one on. It's been a long, hot day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that being said, this is cheers. There you go, brother. Oh, well, there you go. That's a little bit healthier. Okay. Let's start with you, Coach. You were there with your son today. Is that right? You were kind of moving all about and around. Josh, you were up on the sideline. I was kind of a little bit of both, and got a bunch of questions. And I like asking my questions. I like getting my questions in. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. We'll hear from Sean Payton and Jaquan McMillan and some fun stuff with Adam Troutman as well. But let's just get some overall thoughts. Coach, what do we see today? Biggest practice of the camp. This is it. This is the big one.
It was a bit of a letdown, DMac, for me. Just from the standpoint that I thought it was going to be a true, put the ball down at the 30-yard line and just move the football. And I knew it wasn't going to be live tackle because it's not a preseason game, but it was weird. Like, the very first play was a swing pass from the left hash to the right hash, and it was should have been 2nd and 6 right hash. And I looked down, and it was just 2nd and 8 left hash again. And I'm like, oh, this is not an actual move the ball script.
It was not.
It's
no.
Not even kind of. So I think on that front, you didn't get a real good assessment of how the quarterbacks were really moving the offense until you got to the 2-minute drill, which the reality of that was that none of the quarterbacks were able to move the football to get to pay dirt, which is not a great thing. You go 0 for 3. I thought it was a great day for the defense. What I saw was a very consistent pass rush. I think that Jonah Ellis, I think he's starting to emerge as maybe one of the rookie stars of camp. Was working with the ones, was starting to show up in the backfield, and I thought the run game looked decent, but overall, too many drops. Really no plays made down the field. Not one, DMac. I mean, this is an hour and 45
there was a fourth and 18 completed by Stidham. He had a ball.
And I guess when I'm talking about a downfield play, I'm talking about an explosive play.
Okay.
If a 4th and 18 conversion is, I mean, obviously it's a great play. It's so rare. It doesn't happen ever in a real NFL game. But, I mean, Troy Franklin once again got behind the defense. I haven't seen him finish any of those catches yet. I think the catches today, Dulcich had a drop, Courtland Sutton had a drop, Atkins had a drop, which was very uncharacteristic from him. It just wasn't a very clean day overall for the offense. The only real play that was made by any skill player on the offensive side of the ball was Brandon Johnson. Had an unbelievable catch in the back of the end zone. He actually reached around a defender on a slightly underthrown Zach Wilson ball at the back of the end zone and caught the ball, basically pinned it against the lower back of the defender, and that was tremendous. But there was truly, in an hour and 45 minutes, there was one play made. And so my summation of this practice and where I'm at with this training camp is signs need to be hung all over Broncos Park, at what is it, powered by Common Spirit?
Yes.
It's playmakers wanted, playmakers needed, because I think that's going to be the key to making Bo Nix look like an adequate NFL quarterback.
Grizz, what'd you see?
I saw a lot of the same thing as Coach did. It's one of those things where obviously the defense is not going to touch the quarterback. There was a lot of would-be sacks today as well. And it's one of those things if you truly want to go with Bo Nix, and all signs are pointing to Coach and the Broncos wanting to go with Bo Nix. Now, I like that. I'm okay with that. I like that the Broncos finally have something to maybe give their fans a little bit of hope for there, meaning a fresh start, a rookie quarterback. With that, there's going to be those pains that you see with any type of rookie quarterback. Look, Bo Nix has 61 starts from college. That means he should be a little bit more prepared. However, you did see him move away from the SEC, which is the most realistic type of NFL defense you will see. He went back to the Pac-12 in Oregon the last year. So with that, he ran a lot back then with during the SEC days. I just feel like you're going to see a quarterback that's going to have those typical growing pains. There's a lot of hype around him, and there are some plays that I see that I'm like, that's good decision making. That's what I like to see from a rookie quarterback, and his maturity shows there. He knows where he wants to go with the ball for the most part, but then you also see those typical rookie mistakes in that he holds the ball too long sometimes. He scrambles maybe when he shouldn't. He's got good legs. He's got good speed. But there's times where I'm like, he could have just waited in the pocket, move in the pocket a little bit more instead of rolling out and trying to find the lane. So there's those things that you see in a typical rookie quarterback. All signs are pointing to the Broncos and Sean Payton wanting to make him the starting quarterback. I am so interested to see what he's going to look like in live football, because there's a lot to like, but there's a couple things that I'm like, you're going to have these growing pains with this quarterback.
Well, let me give you just how things laid out once they got into the team period. It was actually Jarrett Stidham that went out with the ones in the first team period, but it wasn't move the ball. It was definitely, here's a bunch of situations, here we go. When they went back to team, and it went Stidham, Nix, Wilson. Then in the second round, it was Nix with the ones. In fact, it was Nix with the ones for the next two sessions of team. And when they went to the move the ball, 2-minute warning, 53, the situation was 40 something yards to go, 53 seconds left, down by 6, something along those lines. It actually went back to Stidham with the ones, and then Nix with the 2s and Wilson with the 3s. So if you're drawing any permanent conclusions, it's clearly that Zach Wilson is the third guy. That's not a question. Okay, we sort of knew it. Now we totally get it. But I felt like this was the Bo Nix show. Here is Sean Payton talking about today.
Over the years, the Hall of Fame weekend historically has been it used to be a scrimmage weekend. And I feel like we got a lot of the things that we used to get when we had a scrimmage. It would be hard for me. Look, anytime you have a drill like that or a practice like that, there's a lot of good on both sides of the ball. A lot of things to clean up, and we will be able to do that, get the coaches off the field. I thought they handled it well. No scuffles or anything. Everything was about mental focus from this morning that they got up to coming out here like it was a game. So, any questions?
What do you think of those cases? We started things off. So, does that seem like a satisfied coach or a frustrated coach, or somewhere in the middle there, Mike?
I think it's a satisfied head coach, because I do think that the focus was there. Like, there was no riffraff, there was no shenanigans. If I were to define the mood out at practice today, it was one of like a business. It was a business-like mood. It didn't feel game-like from an energy standpoint. What I found most interesting, DMac, Josh, even being at yesterday's practice. Yesterday's practice was I thought it was going to end up being a bit of a tune-up of a practice for today being a bit of a game day relative to being in training camp. They were on the field for 2 hours and 23 minutes yesterday, DMac.
Yeah.
And what I'd say is that is for how you typically, how a coach, whether it's college, NFL, how you typically kind of see the best that you want to see the next day if it's game day. You typically are on the field for no longer than an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20. But what I do think is Sean Payton is making this a tough camp. And is it a tough camp from the standpoint of, tackling live to the ground, basically exercising futility and being, just being completely out of control? No. But to be out on the field for 2 hours and 23 minutes in the sun, and then to come back the next day, and that was another 2 hour and 23-minute practice with a lot of, call it live football, except for tackling to the ground. I thought the offense looked very heavy-legged. I do. I thought Javonte Williams looked heavy-legged. I thought the receivers looked heavy-legged. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because there were no injuries. You do kind of push through some of that fatigue, and we all know that fatigue makes cowards of us all. And I think that the offense pushed through it, but the precision, the ability to come out of that scrimmage and say this is a good offense wasn't there. That was not achieved. So
all right, that's funny you say that. And Josh, I want to get your comments on this, but it's funny you bring this up because Peyton did talk about
nothing new, that it's developing that mental toughness and every year we train these SEALs, 20% come out of Bud School. The other 80% ring this bell they have. And so I'm using that analogy, but you're challenging them, not just physically, but mentally.
Okay, well, there you go, Grizz. That's it. That's Mike. That's what you're talking about, right? There we go.
I love it.
That's a heavy comparison, comparing it to Navy SEAL training. But I agree. It's the same thing. He went on to say today that 2 years ago, they were the most injured team. Yeah. Last year, they were, I believe, bottom 3 in terms of men injured during the season. I think it's good to be a little tougher on these guys. We're in the day and age where the McVays of this league don't even touch their starters when it comes to playing them in any preseason games. I don't want to say they baby them. This is the NFL. They're not babying them. But at the same time, they are much lighter on the players that they know that are going to be starters. Whereas Coach Peyton is old school. He is, nose to the grindstone. We're going to keep practicing hard on these hot days. And then you're going to get a hefty amount of playing time during the preseason. He wants to see what he has with his team. And I think that it does some good there. It allows the players to get a little callous. So many players say they love finally when they're able to get hit because it brings them back into, okay, we're in football mode now. It's go time. I think that toughens up the team a lot. I'm for that. I agree with you, Coach. I think they were a little heavy-legged today when you see them looking a little tired, fatigued, maybe a little bit. But again, that's that mental toughness that you need to get going during the preseason. This is a long NFL season, even longer now. You guys, the players, have to get used to that.
The word I keep hearing being used by Sean Payton is calloused. Mm-hmm. Like he wants to build a calloused football team. And I think the back-to-back of Friday and Saturday, 2 hours, 15 at least, plus that is building callous. So I think we should play a little fun game, just playing off of Sean Payton. Guys that stood out as SEALs that are inching their way towards ringing the bell.
Who's going to ring the bell?
I have a couple just right off the top of my head.
Give it to us. Who's about to ring the bell?
Audric Estime.
What?
Wow.
What?
Yeah, he looked.
Whoa.
He was the one back today that I thought had a burst, looked tough. He had that sideline.
Oh, hold on. Time out. We got to redefine things. Because in Navy SEALs, when you ring the bell, you tap out.
I'm sorry.
That's tapping. That's tapping.
Sorry. When you ring the bell, you're done.
Okay.
See you later.
Graduating. Inching towards graduation.
Okay. All right.
I got a little excited because in the weight room, if you hit a max, a PR, you ring the bell. So it's like that's actually a positive in certain.
It's a negative with Navy SEAls.
Yeah. So let's say the players that move towards graduation.
Okay.
SEAL training via Sean Payton, Audric Estime is definitely one. I saw a little scuffle, and it was a good type of scuffle. Audric Estime finished a run on the sideline with the stiff arm of Thomas Incoom, and he's another player that I think he's shown up every single day. Incoom as an edge, a guy that's stirring the pot. He was involved some way in that Atkins fight earlier in camp. I like his toughness. I like his kind of just callousness that Coach Payton used and refers to. So that's one. Brandon Johnson is another one for me. And I talked about him making the one play.
Yeah.
He goes out there every single day and does not show any form of fatigue, does not show any letdowns in his mental intensity and his energy on the field. I think that's a player that's trending in the right direction. And then on the defense side of the ball, JL Skinner was one today.
Okay.
He played with the ones. I think with Brandon Jones' injury, I think, obviously PS2 didn't even play at all today. Or very little. He's a corner, but Skinner was utilizing that goal line and some of the blitz packages from the safety position, and that dude came right down the middle of the A gap, down the hole, and met one of the backs at the line of scrimmage.
It was Pirine, and that was a great play by Skinner right there. He met him right at the goal line, and it was reminiscent of the Okoye Atwater hit where he just blows him up and stops him short of the goal. That was a beautiful play. I agree with you, Coach, right there. That was great.
Those are several players. So Estime, Brandon Johnson, JL Skinner to me showed up as kind of dudes that show toughness and are inching their way towards SEAL graduation.
I'm going to get to, I can't wait to you list the guys to ring the bell who are tapping out, though. Let's, keep an eye out for those guys. But it was funny. Sean Payton had a fun way to describe camp right now.
Look, we're still at that stage of camp where there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's pitch black. And that's just the truth. We're early in camp.
It's pitch black. It's like 98 degrees and sunny. We haven't seen a cloud in the sky.
They're doing sugar cookies. The sugar cookies, the Navy SEAL, where they're on the wake of the wave and they're just rolling around with their full fatigues on right now.
Mm-hmm. It's pitch black. It's awful. It's the worst. All right, let me give you a positive about Bo Nix. See, so now again, Stidham first, Nix second, third, Stidham 2-minute drill.
Second, third, fourth.
A second, third, fourth. Okay.
Yeah. Everything. Yep.
And anyway, here's what I saw. Okay. I thought today, man, we can all have our difference of opinion, but I like the little angle. I was on that little ramp. Like I like where you were sitting, Coach. If you're in that media, you're under the tent, you're on the 50. Hey, man, awesome. Really, really good. Great spot. But if they're coming towards like the family and friends tent where that ramp is, woo, pretty good seats right there. I'm telling you, you're right there and you're just up elevated a little bit. And that's where I was standing for most of the practice today. I like that spot. And I saw in red zone, Bo Nix contain himself, get flushed out, move to his right, throw across his body a bullet to drill Cortland Sutton, who was kind of sliding down for a touchdown. And when I watched that, I was like, there you go. Little patience, little athleticism, way more athleticism than Stidham, by the way. Way more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was a time he took off on 7-on-7, but Sean Payton says he doesn't mind that, by the way. That used to be forbidden, but Sean says he's okay with that. And I saw a play right there that exhibited to me skill, athleticism, patience that resulted in a touchdown. And to me, I was just like, okay, this is our guy. I mean, he has all the traits that you're looking for, and he's done absolutely nothing that is horrendous.
Correct.
So I don't know, man. Maybe you could talk about that particular play and what you saw there.
No, DMac, you picked out the play of the day for Bo Nix. There's no question.
Yeah.
And I think Bo Nix, as a guy that has pocket presence, I'm a fan. I love this. You're not going to see him run himself into sacks this year, which, as Broncos fans have watched for the last 2 years, that is by far the biggest complaint that I had, and I know every Broncos fan had with Russell Wilson, is that he found sacks, even if it was not necessarily blocked for a sack-worthy play.
All right, let me play Sean Payton on that, because I did ask Sean Payton about the patience of Bo Nix, and he got into that sack stuff.
I said that in the spring. When you look at
here we go.
Bo's patience in high-pressure situations.
I like it. I'm for it. I think it's a trait that when we watched, you see pretty good pocket sense. Doesn't take a lot of sacks. I think he knows when the play's over, time to go. And then I think he can make plays when he's going. So I used to say this all the time, that the sack numbers are a reflection more on the quarterback than the offensive line. And there are some, Breeze was one of those guys, he was a tough sack. Ball came out, and I think Bo has traits like that.
Sean Payton is such an on-time guy. He's like, get this play in your head, understand where you need to go, and get it done. He even said, I believe it was yesterday, throw the ball away if you have to, that's fine. He says you get another down after that. And that might be another slight to who the quarterback was last
Of course
year,
it
Russell
is.
Wilson.
Of
He
course
cannot
it is.
stand this man. He cannot stand that he was on the team last year. And I agree with you. I think Bo's decision-making, especially that play to Cortland Sutton, that's great. That is an NFL-level decision-making right there. Move out of the pocket a little bit, find your open receiver when the play breaks down a little bit. I agree, Coach. I don't think he's going to be a guy that runs himself into sacks at all. He is smart. He knows how to do this. And I think that is from the 61 starts that he had in college. He has the pocket presence and awareness factor there that other younger quarterbacks that just didn't have as many starts have. It's just if he can read – my biggest thing is if he can read the defenses coming up this next season. That's the biggest thing in his next step in being an NFL quarterback.
And I would take that a step further. Can he read the defenses? I believe he can. Mm-hmm. Can he deliver the ball when you're playing against the best or even top half defenses in the NFL? Because those windows are going to be a lot tighter. And what I've seen with Bo Nix, very interesting, is when he sees zone coverage, which you saw a lot of in college. And who the heck is going to play man-to-man coverage with a single high safety against Oregon's slew of talent and receivers? Nobody. You're an idiot if you do. If he sees zone coverage, he eats it up because there's windows. Mm-hmm. You can throw it underneath the two high safeties. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a beat on Bo Nix this year. Play tight man coverage, filter everything back inside, and make him have to make those tight window throws. And so today, the downside, because I agree, DMac, they're worse than positives. There's no question. And I think the pocket mobility was a definite positive. The downside was I charted practice today, and I won't get around to releasing him publicly because I got in trouble with my mentor, Darren McKee, last time I did that on X. But he was 50% completion percentage today, 50%.
Come on, man. There were some drop passes and things that should have gone his way. That
are there drop passes in NFL football games, DMac?
Okay,
no, but I mean that's a reality. And frankly, today there wasn't a quarterback on the day that had a completion percentage better than 50%.
All right, to the degree that you were talking about, and Mike, I do want to go back to why did Bo Nix hang around for his last year at Oregon? I want to get to that in a second. But we keep hearing how mature he is and the patience and all that. This is what Adam Troutman had to say about why he thinks Bo Nix is as good as he is right now.
He's doing great. I think the biggest thing with him, people talk about all the games he started in college, obviously. I think that truly means something. You see it in the way he commands a huddle and the way he steps up into the pocket where he can find his voids and his throwing lanes. That's an experience thing. And a lot of guys coming out might not have that because they played in 20, 30 games. Those played, 60, 61, whatever it is. So, he's obviously been doing very well.
Okay, that means something, Coach. It means something.
No, absolutely.
And maybe explain to us why he did stick around for another year when he could have come out in the draft last year.
Well, I think he wouldn't have been a first-round draft pick a year ago. I mean, that's a reality. I mean, he wasn't even really in the conversation, DMac, 1 full calendar year ago. There were still a lot of the stains of his Auburn career, especially the last 2 years of his Auburn career. A lot of people don't realize, Bo Nix had a significant injury at Auburn as well. And so being 2 years removed, just like Michael Penix Jr. was 2 more years removed from a lot of his injury history, Penix's injury history is clearly much worse than Bo Nix's. So I'm not going to try to compare the two, but just from the decision-making of having that extra year at Oregon, I think that was obviously he ended up becoming a first-round drafted quarterback because I think he probably, from what I heard a year ago, probably would have been closer to 3rd or 4th round.
Grizz, what do you think?
It's one of those things where it's a big risk, maybe not necessarily for him because he was coming back to Oregon where he wanted to be in an offense that fit him a little bit more. But it's always that big risk. I remember we've even talked about this with a guy like Shedeur Sanders when it's can you only hurt your draft stock? Where with him, I think he had a lot bigger of an upside staying there, especially with the team around him. You even think of a guy that the Broncos have, a guy like Troy Franklin, who had a couple drop passes there, but at the end of the day had a really good catch. And it's one of those things where the team around you is going to help lift you up so much more. And I think that's the biggest reason why he would stay there.
By the way, we have Adam Troutman ripping on fantasy nerds, and Sean Payton did make fun of me for being old We'll have that coming up. You'll want to stick around for that. But I think you brought up Brandon Johnson today, and I'm watching David Sills, who's a really fascinating guy because he has NFL experience. And then you look at the speed of Jalen Virgil, although he's coming off an injury, so maybe it's not quite there. And you look around, guys, and this wide receiver room is kind of intense.
I said that in the spring. When you look at what's here and then who we drafted, because you guys have seen the two young guys, both Troy and Bailey, and so running back the same way, secondary the same way, and I always would say that'll sort itself out.
What kind of criteria when you go into those conversations?
All the things you're looking at: smart, tough, productive. What do they do well? Bailey's kind of inside out. Troy's kind of outside in. We got the addition of Josh outside. So all of these guys, Little Jordan, I like him inside out. So there's certain skill sets that they all have, and then some are different than the others. But it's a big room, and I do think there's quite a bit of competition there.
This is going to be brutal, Coach, making these decisions. I mean, brutal.
I can't even imagine some of the decisions that are going to have to be made because I heard his criteria there: smart, tough, productive. And if you're going off that criteria, one of the first names that came out of his mouth was Devon Bailey.
Yeah.
And I think
he's had a great camp.
3 of those characteristics. And I love the fact that he even said, it gave me a little bit of, I hadn't heard those quotes, DMac, so I appreciate you sharing them.
Sure.
But him saying inside out or outside in, really interesting that he talked specifically about Devon Bailey inside out. So he doesn't just see him being the Cortland Sutton backup at X. He sees him as a big body type to be able to potentially use at the F or the zebra position, which is your slot receiver, your inside receiver. But he does have the intelligence to play both. Josh Reynolds, outside in, he's clearly making this roster. He had a good day today. He did have another good day. I think I had a great week. Troy Franklin, he keeps getting behind everybody. I think that's a good thing. Like, he gets behind the defense. It just haven't seen the completion of those plays behind the defense yet. Like, that has not happened for whatever reason outside of a Zach Wilson 7-on-7 throw a week ago on Saturday. So, but I think, hey, he brought those 3 guys up. Little Jordan Hubfrey is another one that he brought up. Those are guys that I've seen be productive in this camp, to be very honest.
I think it's brutal, man, what they're going to have to do. And the guy that I see look good until they get to team is Tim Patrick. And I actually don't know how to put my finger on that, because in all the other drills, Grizz, Tim Patrick's doing great, okay? But I hardly see him do anything in team. What am I missing here?
No, I agree with you. It's one of those things. I love Tim Patrick. His story is great. I was listening to him talk to the media yesterday, and he says nothing has ever come easy for him. Obviously, he wasn't, had to work really, really hard to even get into the NFL, gets here, gets those 2 years in a row of injuries. But before that, he had a 100% catch rate in season. I think he's one of those guys that game film is so much more different than you're going to see in practice. Look, the guy doesn't drop a ball. He is such a sure-handed receiver, but at the same time, I think it's really, really, really tough for him to get back in the headspace of, I'm okay, everything's going to be fine. My body is cooperating with me for the first time in 2 years. He's got a lot to prove. I like him. I really want to see how he turns out in a preseason game. And I think if he gets the confidence back in game, that's when you'll start to see him shine. Because I agree. It's one of those things. I watch him in every receiver drill because I'm really interested in wanting to see how he even plays now. I barely remember him in any team-specific drill at all. And it's been disappointing because I think he's one of the more sure-handed receivers on the team.
Coach?
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly that he has had a very quiet camp. And while I do enjoy watching wide receiver individual, I get a whole lot more out of the 11-on-11, even 7-on-7 for the receiver position, because you got to create separation.
Right.
And that's probably what is not happening with consistency.
Probably not.
And to be fair to Tim Patrick, I don't think Cortland Sutton necessarily has had a very dominant camp. I don't think it's been bad by any stretch, but it's not like he's been a guy that has made play after play, day after day. He's been more present in terms of making plays. Today he had the big touchdown catch in the red zone from Bo Nix. Great catch. great second play effort to create separation, which is what he does, right? That's what Tim. I mean, if you look at his skill set, Cortland Sutton, he is a red zone guy. He's in the red zone.
That's right.
Tim Patrick, man, Josh, you bring up a great point. Before we start, putting him 6 feet under, let's go see what he does in the preseason games, and that's going to be really important for Tim Patrick.
I think it's going to be brutal, and I think he's going to get whacked, and he doesn't have any money to him. I hate saying it because of what he's actually done to get back, but the other talent, listen, man, you're right about Troy Franklin getting behind guys. He does. He'll catch some of those balls at some point.
For sure.
Mims is kind of an interesting one, man. Like, I actually don't see him doing all that much, but he is solidified as their returner, both on punt and kickoff, okay? He's just going to be their guy. And because they've spent that second-round pick on him, and he's kind of a red ass with coaches and stuff behind the scenes, there's like a certain spirit with Marvin Mims, but he's not going anywhere. He's not going to go anywhere. I just question, like, how productive is this dude? I think this Vele guy could be the secret sauce of, like, the entire year. I just don't know, like, how does he get on the field, man? Because, Reynolds and Sutton are going to be out there. And then, I don't know. I don't know,
right
man.
Now we had Mims penciled in as the F. And
what about that?
What I found really interesting, DMac, is clearly Mims has been very frustrated. He has not yet carved out any form of identity in his role in the offense.
Right.
So far in training camp. I did notice that after him allegedly slamming his helmet down in frustration in yesterday or Thursday's practice, I can't remember which day it was, 4 or 5 plays in the first 7 today were designed plays for touches.
He got targeted.
And they were either incomplete, it was an end around or reverse type play where he got -5 yards because of how the play was blocked. And it was almost like this frustration bubble that has just been brewing is like getting close to just exploding. And I'm feeling it.
Well, listen, man, he has all the confidence of a high-paid $30 million a year guy, without those bothersome zeros in his paycheck. But he's got that attitude, ain't no doubt about it. I'll tell you this too, bro. Watch yourself, Marvin Mims, just a pinch, okay? You may become a return specialist, my man. You may. You got a bunch of big, tall dudes who can play your position behind you. And if Bo Nix is your quarterback, at least he's taller than Russell Wilson, and he completes all sorts of short passes over the middle, tons. And guess what, man? You're short. You're like short, aside from Bandy, you're like the shortest guy out there. And you're not easy to find. You're the anti-prime in the middle of the field compared to some of these other guys.
I'll tell you who hasn't
Go
been
ahead.
hard to find is Michael Bandy. That dude is not been hard to find. I mean,
he's been all over the place.
I mean, I'm just. Hey, I keep going back to it, man. Like, just listen to what the head coach says, because that's our one insight into the way he thinks. Smart, tough, productive. Smart, tough, productive. I'm going to keep watching this very closely throughout the course of training camp, and then these preseason games. You're going to see those 3 traits show up or not, and I think that's whoever embodies those 3 characteristics. There are no sacred cows. There's no huge salary that's doled out to any of these receivers. If you meet those 3 criteria, you're probably going to be in the top 6.
Boy, if I have a hot take from here for the rest of the season, it's they keep 6 receivers and Mims becomes more of a return specialist. How about that for a big hot take there for you? Meanwhile, let's get to some fun stuff here, and we'll get to some comments in a second. Here is a couple of things. We'll get to Sean Payton call me old here because that's a whole different conversation. But Troutman I like Adam Troutman, by the way. He's got a good personality. He's obviously a good player. He's a bit of a mentor to Lucas Kroll, by the way. He's another New Orleans guy, which means a lot to Sean Payton. And he had a pretty funny sense of humor when Mike Kliss asked him about fantasy tight ends and how he doesn't really fit in there. Up yours, nerds.
Frustrated that fantasy league tends to measure tight ends sometimes. Whoever gets the fantasy league points, people think they're the best tight ends.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Yeah, I don't care. I really could give I couldn't care less about fantasy. I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
You're not necessarily a fantasy league
No.
tight end.
No, and people, obviously a lot of the general public, I think, would see that, and they gauge a lot of how good you are off of fantasy. But I mean, you don't really, yeah, that's not really how it is. So call it what it is. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good sense of humor there, Coach. Right?
That's awesome, man. You know what's so funny is if I were Troutman right there and said, Hey, how many people out in this crowd here drafted Jerry Jeudy on their fantasy team? Guess what? I was third on the team last season in touchdown catches, just in case you were wondering.
Just an
number
FYI.
1 was Cortland. Number 2 was Brandon Johnson. Me, Adam Troutman, was number 3 on this football team. So take that, fantasy nerds, and shove it where the sun doesn't shine.
After practice today, there was lengthy. Here's what I really do. You know what, Coach? There's something about being a coach and being in the minutia of football that's kind of awesome, right? I mean, and this is what Sean Payton loves. Like, it's pretty clear. It would be awesome to sit around having beers talking about the nuances of football with Sean Payton, because this dude is obsessed with it and literally is picking out all the minutia of basically everything. We had lengthy. There's too much to play here. I'll get to him calling me old here in a second. But there was lengthy conversations about the kickoff rule. And just to sum it up, he's calling it like the box, the 20-yard box, Grizz. What do you call it? Something about a box?
It's the box.
Zone.
Yeah, the box zone?
It's the
Catch,
box zone
zone.
Well, it's the box zone where you want the ball to land or catch. And because if it bounces there and rolls into the end zone, they get the ball on the 20.
Okay. Has anybody else called it the box zone? Are other people calling that, or is this Sean Payton like just making this up? Because it feels like he's making it up, but he's trying to make it catch on. I've
heard catch zone.
Catch zone. Well, he was definitely using the word box.
Yeah, he was talking a lot about the box.
So to sum up how he feels about it, he just thinks there should be one place where the ball's put if it's not in the box zone. That's it, the end. And it should be a little bit more punitive, because he just says, if I get analytical data just showing me there's no real advantage or disadvantage, I'm just going to boot it through the end zone. If it starts at the 30, I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, Mike.
DMac, I got to head out. Family's got to roll, man. I'm at Coach Jason Klatt's house for the high school staff event, but family's got to head out.
All right, brother. I'll see you later. Well, Josh, you can hear him call me old. See you, Mike. We'll see you later.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
All right, brother. There you go. All right, so we're doing all this special team stuff, Grizz, and I wanted him. I was trying to bait him just a pinch to just say, this shit looks goofy, basically. Yeah. But instead of just stating, I think this shit looks goofy, I'm trying to get him to say, you don't inject your own opinion to the question.
I learned from Cecil not to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. But here it is, and here comes a shot back at me that I did not expect when I asked him this.
How do you describe what it looks like in your kickoff?
Well, I think the most important thing for any fan is there's a box that the ball has to land. Now, look, it's a drastic change, and yet how do you describe the old one back in the, we're all so used to it, and so the young reporters aren't asking me that question.
He's calling me old. He's calling me old, right?
I didn't catch that. I was there. I didn't catch that. That is funny. These millennials and Gen Zers are not going to be asking that question. Look, I think it's interesting because it's so new. There's so many different things. If it goes out of bounds, you get it at the 40. If you catch it inside the box zone, you get it the 30 or the 35? 30, correct?
Yes.
And then if it hits the box zone but rolls through, it goes to the 20. I wanted to ask him, I didn't get my question. I wanted to ask him, will you even try just booting it, no air underneath? You want to line drive these suckers.
Yeah.
That'll give the receiving team more of a chance to fumble the ball and have it go through the end zone, or your team have a chance to get the ball back with a fumble. I think that's not a bad play to just try to line drive this a little bit more.
Well, to let you know how he did respond to some of those types of questions, he did say, because I asked him, would you consider putting a position player back there to have a tackling advantage?
Yeah.
Like Kansas City's doing.
Reed.
That's right. And he did not dismiss that. What he did say is a lot of teams aren't going to show in preseason what they actually plan to do.
There's no point.
So just because you see, and he also said he anticipates the NFL may tweak some things as it goes. And usually this is all hammered out like in preseason this year for next year.
There's no pre-tryouts here. There's no tryouts. There's nothing to work out here. They're like, hey, we're doing it this year, whether you guys like it or not.
So I think Sean, first of all, he loves talking about it. He talked about it at length. It was all in good fun about, the young guys aren't asking me about this. It was all, this guy just loves talking ball, and it's fun to have these type of even minutia types of conversations. And this is one of the reasons I truly, really like Sean Payton, Grizz, because I do think he thinks of all these things. With Nathaniel Hackett or Vic Fangio, it was, and even VJ, it was like baby New Year on all the strategy behind the game. It's great to have the head coach, just like you have with Michael Malone and Jared Bednar. The head coach is the authority on the strategy his team should use. And whether it works out or not, okay, we'll see. But we're not leaning on somebody else's suggestions. He's thought about it. They practiced it. He knows where he's been and what he's doing. That's why you hear all those New Orleans references all the time. And I think it's a positive. Josh?
Well, take a look at this. You said head coach doing head coaching things. Look at the past head coaches the Broncos have had. First timer after first timer. Look, Vic Fangio, great defensive coach. But that is what he focused on. That's the focus that these coaches that are coordinators have when they're first-time coaches. Even VJ, he was not able to see big picture. Vic Fangio, not necessarily looking at big picture. Great on the defensive side, both of them. However, even, I don't know, I guess you see these types of coaches, and then you get Sean Payton. And Sean Payton has been a long-time head coach in the NFL, and he knows these types of things. He's experienced. There's nothing new that he's going to be experiencing in terms of what he's going to go about in his thought process. He has seen everything in the tenure of being a head coach. So when you get a coach like this for the Broncos that has been a longtime head coach, Super Bowl winning head coach already, this type of stuff doesn't surprise him. And to your point, he absolutely thinks of everything. Finally, you see this. As Bronco fans, that should excite you. I know he's not the new head coach this year. He's been around now. But you finally get a guy that sees big picture and knows how to go about that in his thought process.
All right, let's get to a few comments before we sign off. My guy, Andon, if we can agree that Bo Nix has improved this camp, then can we agree we need to start him and assume he'll improve by the end of week 17? Andon, yes, and yes. Josh?
Look, this is the thing. He has improved already in camp. We're 10 days in now, and you see what I want to see and what I've been looking closely at is he going to make the same mistake twice? He is going to make many mistakes as camp goes out, as preseason goes on. I want to see improvement. Hey, I know I did this wrong. Let's fix it and not make that mistake again. I think he's incrementally done that. I think he's done a good job of being a sponge and soaking up the minute details in the NFL. There are so small windows that you can make of mistakes here that you have to clean that up in the preseason. And look, he's a rookie. There's going to be growing pains during the regular season. We're presuming that he's going to be the starter here. I want to see those mistakes happen and then fix them and not make those same mistakes again.
Couple of other comments from Danny. Bo is going to love the big wide receiver in the middle. Watch out for little Jordan Humphrey. Man, I don't think it's crazy that Mims could be replaced in the slot by either Humphrey or Vele. It's not crazy. It's not traditional, but it's not the craziest thing. Maybe Bo Nix should talk to some of his defensive teammates to help him understand what kind of defense he's going to encounter this year. All right.
If he's not doing that, then what are you doing?
Sanford is spending too much time around Lindahl. His negative Nanciness is rubbing off. Well, coach isn't here to defend himself on that one.
Low blow.
Sean didn't say you were old, DMac. You're just not young.
The nice way to say it is you have a lot of experience under your belt.
Savvy vet. Maybe too savvy.
There you
All
go,
right.
there you go.
Well, listen, man, it's great. Hey, DMac and the guys, I hope all is well. People seem to be enjoying. I'm glad to see Sean Payton recognize you at an advanced age. Fun to see him razz you a little bit. I'm taking it as if he likes me, not that he hates me. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Let's see. But did he really answer the question? You never know. Good to see you guys. Thanks for showing up on a Saturday. I'm not cool. I'm an old guy, according to Sean Payton. Grizz is probably just getting ready to go out. The night is just. Is that right? Is it just
night
beginning?
is young, man? It's a Saturday. We're gonna have fun with the boys tonight. Absolutely. You're making me late, DMac.
Dude, I'm about to go to bed, but
Hey,
you know,
there you go.
but
I love
enjoy. Hey, new record for folks joining us. How about that? Here we
I
go.
love it. That's awesome, man. That's great.
So
I'm glad I could be a small part of it. Honestly, this has been fun. This has been great.
Absolutely. Grizz is out there. You should know every single day. He's our man on the scene. So all the social media posts, and he's getting the sound and bop, 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 bop. So
Yes,
he's one of our insiders that will bring you the most extensive Broncos coverage. We'll be back on Monday night at 8 o'clock. Day off tomorrow, but we regather on Monday, all amping up to the first preseason game at Indianapolis next Sunday. Grizz, my man, have a great, safe night, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to go downstairs and pass out.
Have fun, DMac. We'll see you Monday.